This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This table is really tilted.
Excuse me? Am I gonna get a chance to speak?
Maybe I should take that back.
Denied. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Take a giant step for mankind.
Welcome to the Tilted Table with your hosts, Sean and Joe.
Just a different color. It's still the same shit.
It's adjacent.
Yeah, for sure. So, folks, welcome to the Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. My name is Sean Landon Clark.
And I am Joey Joe, the Fracky Mac.
And we are here today to discuss
Questions.
Well, questions.
The would you.
The would you. Would you rather do A or would you rather do B? So we're going to be talking about a number of different things where would you rather do one thing or the other. And of course, there are going to be things that are awesome. Either one would be awesome, but you can only choose one. What would you rather do?
And I think it all is going to be in the eye of the beholder as well. Because some of the, especially the first thing. So the question is, would you go to space? Or would you take a small submarine down to see the Titanic?
So you have to choose one or the other. Mm-hmm. So what would you do?
Well, I vote for neither. Well, let's see.
We're already ruining the podcast before we even start.
I guess if it's going to be one of the two, I'm going to space. But when I was a kid, I remember being, this would have been about second grade or so. And I remember being in class and they wheeled in the TV that's on the stand. And we all got the opportunity to watch the Space Shuttle Challenger launch. And then when it explodes into, gazillion pieces in the middle of the air, Mrs. Burgess, the teacher, stood up, turned the TV off and said, "Well," and wheeled it back out of the room, and we continued our lessons like nothing had happened. So I remember that. And then I remember the whole Columbia disaster.
Yes.
So when people say, like, would you go to space? Man, I'm a hard pass. I guess with Elon's project, and was it the other one, Blue Origin? Was that Bezos's deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could get down for some low orbit floating around, but if I could take a pass, the answer would be, I'm going to just sit on the ground and watch you guys. And that's what National Geographic is for.
I don't understand that. You say you do low orbit, but
if I was one of those things, like, I'm not trying to slingshot around the moon or anything like that.
Yeah, but I mean, you're high enough in the air that if something goes wrong, you're going to die either way. Might as well go, don't take any half measure because the result's still the same.
It's one of the videos that had my anxiety, like, out of control was, this is like 5 years ago, the Red Bull dude that took the balloon up into space. And then, that... There's no way. You could say, I'll give you $1 billion. Still not going to happen, man.
I don't know. Well, I going to the Challenger disaster, your experience was a little bit different than mine. I was in the 6th grade when that happened, Mr. Wagley's class. And so we're watching it and you see it explode. And everybody was like, whoa, what happened? Like, I think we understood what happened, but it was just, I recall specifically, because you can hear the NASA guys of talking as it's going up, and it's all that NASA code and
sure
114 red type 25 that kind of what I'm saying. Yeah. So it explodes, and the reason I questioned it was because I didn't hear anybody like, oh shit. Right, there was nobody. They were still saying all the
very clinical,
and nothing, and I'm just like, well, what happened? Like, I saw what happened. It exploded. And I just assumed that, like, well, maybe we're not seeing, maybe something blew up, but not the shuttle, like maybe a piece of it or something. Obviously, again, with you in the 6th grade, you're what, like 11, right? Or something like that. So I think I was still having a hard time processing it, but I remember thinking that, like, well, what I saw couldn't be what I saw because there's no reaction from the people on the ground that suggests something just exploded. Because you think you would get that, that real... visceral reaction.
Sure.
Like, oh yeah, right. So we just sitting there and we're watching. I remember it splintered, so you see these smoke trails going off in different directions.
Yep.
And my teacher's just like, oh my God, there's an accident, and we're watching it. He didn't turn it off. we just kept watching it.
Oh yeah, I remember Mrs. Burgess turned it off, and I think clearly we're a different generation than current, but back now they would probably have like counselors come in and grief therapy people.
Oh, of course, yeah.
How are you feeling right now and all
Oh
that?
God, yes.
In my opinion, that nonsense, because it made all of us, I think, stronger. I mean, more clinical and being able to deal with something that's obviously horrible, and we just got over it.
Yeah, I don't recall having any trauma over it. I was sort of fascinated by it, but it's the same fascination like when 9/11 happened. And I was working as a newspaper reporter in Oakland for the Tribune. And, that whole morning was just like, whoa. And like, we're under attack or whatever. And yeah, it's just at some point, I didn't feel like, I had to take a day off because, the trauma. And I was in the middle of it because they shut down. I was living in San Francisco at the time, so I was commuting to Oakland. And you couldn't get out of the city of San Francisco. BART was shut down. The freeways were shut down. The airports were shut down. Everything's shut down. So you're, locked inside your house for the most part. My roommate, Shelby, she was losing her shit. Nothing against women, but she was overtly emotional. Like, oh my God, we're going to go to war. The world's ending. And I was like, oh, calm down.
It's Armageddon.
Yeah. So, yeah, when I saw the Challenger, I don't recall having any kind of serious, traumatic response to it. I remember, once I figured out what it was happening, I felt sad. Like, oh my God, what a way to go. There was a teacher on that flight.
There was, yeah.
And so it was a whole thing that like you're going up for this experience of a lifetime, and you probably didn't even, it's just lights out instantly.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
instantly. And then, but on the heels of that, was it like 15 years later? Is Columbia?
Yeah, the Columbia was coming back into the Earth's atmosphere, and something went wrong and just disintegrated the shuttle itself.
Right. So, which begs the question now: would you go to space?
I would go to space before I'd go down to the Titanic, and we just had Ocean Gate, so obviously going down to the Titanic can be dangerous too. But I think the reason I would go into space is I've seen the Titanic. I mean, not up close, but I've seen the Titanic, and I don't know what I would get seeing it in person. It just doesn't seem like it's that like awesome. I get it. It's this really iconic story, and it's got a whole sort of mythos, wrapped around it. And yeah, it would be cool to see the Titanic, I guess, up close. But going to outer space, going to fucking outer space, shit, I'm sorry, that wipes out anything that you could do on Earth. To me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also would prove my theory that the Earth is not flat. I've been a big. I know it's wild. I still think it's round, and I need to see it from a distance to say motherfucking thing is round.
You're in the minority these days, is what you're saying.
It seems like it.
We're all gonna find the edge of the Earth one of these days.
I remember one time telling somebody I can prove that the Earth is round just by go outside and look at the moon. Fucking moon is round. Look at it. It's a big circle. And a flat, I don't know if it was a flat earther. I don't know if this person was actually a flat earther. They said like, well, how do you know that's not like looking at a dinner plate? It's flat. You're just looking at it like, I'm like, oh, okay, well, nice move.
How did
Checkmate.
Did you have a comeback or was it?
No, I didn't have a comeback. You're like, well, maybe it is. Maybe I'm just looking at a flat dinner plate.
Maybe it's all a part of the Matrix, man.
Right, but it never turns. Like you don't ever see the sliver, like whatever angle I'm looking at, I'm always looking at it as it's laying down like a flat plate. It doesn't ever turn one way where I just see the sliver of it. Like, well, wait, there it is. There's a sliver. You're right. It is flat. So yeah, I don't think the Earth is flat. I think it's very round. But it would be nice to go up there and be able to come back down there and say like, I've seen it.
No, but what are some of the things that would prevent you from? Let's just take the Titanic out of it, taking a small submersible many fathoms down into the depths.
Why? What would stop me from doing it? Well, nothing would stop me from doing it. I wouldn't be scared to do it. If the vessel was, up to code. I mean, what we're finding out about Ocean Gate was that Sterling Rush, the guy that put that together, he was told by his engineers that every time he had gone down, it had caused some damage to the vessel, and that it, that needed an overhaul. And he basically said it didn't.
Well, the fact that it was controlled with an Xbox controller would be my first nope.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to bring that up. That would definitely be the thing. Like, are you sure this is up to code? right? It's like you got a freaking PlayStation, controller running this thing. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
And I don't, and that was its own deal for sure. But I'm not claustrophobic at all. But the idea of being camped out in such a little tiny space, I remember asking, well, what happens when you have to use the restroom? Apparently there was like a little privacy thing that they would people would hold up or pin to the wall or something, and then you would use the facilities, so to speak. I'm like, yeah, I'm not down with any of that.
Well, I think you got to treat it like a long distance drive. Take a piss before you go. That would probably be the best move.
Diaper.
Yeah, or it depends, some sort of adult diaper. I guess you could use the baby diaper, although I think that would look weird. At least with Depends, you can fall into a little bit of an adult category. Don't look too much like a weirdo.
But the thought of being underwater, and especially that far underwater, is what freaks me out. It's not the space or the constraints wouldn't be. If it was like, say, an old World War II submarine, which I have been on, that didn't bother me at all. It's just the idea of having open windows where you're seeing the water outside and whatever crazy monsters are out there. That's the part that bothers me. And I have no interest in seeing the Titanic and the rust and the barnacles and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you can easily pull up a zillion pictures online, and that's about as fascinating as it is for me.
Well, I think going underwater, my issue would be the depth. Like, submarine I don't think would bother me, but going down that far.
But does the window bother you?
No, the window wouldn't bother me. It would be simply the fact that I'm going to a depth that most vessels can't do. And I think there's a reason for that. Like, I'm assuming it's, very dangerous to go that deep into water. Obviously, we have the technology to do it. But again, unless it's military grade, type vessel, I'm not going to, some jackass, well, I'm an engineer and I built this thing and we can privately go down there on my own private, whatever that thing was called. I'm not doing that. You're out of your fucking mind. Now, if you had a privately owned vessel that was just like a submarine and we're going, I guess, I don't know how far regular submarines go, but, let's say it goes 1,000 feet underwater or whatever it is.
Like the Red October.
Yeah, I would have no problem doing that. But again, when you start getting to, depths of water where, again, military grade vessels are the ones that could go down there. And just like, you don't just build something like this. This is very specialized.
Right. Yeah, just the seeing it is one thing. The knowledge that it's out there is completely different. Like being on a submarine underwater, I don't think would bother me at all. But looking out the window and seeing things go by, that's what bothers me.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I'd want the window. I want to see all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, like, why am I underwater? I could be in a steel tube. You could be lying to me. You could be, like those, what is it, Universal Studio rides where it's not a real roller coaster, it just feels like one.
Well, it's like, I don't want to see the Kraken. If we're being attacked by the Kraken, I'd rather just be out there somewhere.
Oh, man, I got to see the Kraken. I want to see that thing wrap its tentacles around the sub and take me out. Yeah, that's dope.
When you were a kid, did you like watching like Jules Verne, was it 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
But I watched a lot of Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah,
I remember Jacques Cousteau. Yeah,
that was a cool cat, man.
Yeah, he was dope. His shows were really good. So,
and I mean, that was cutting edge. That was when scuba tanks were in the infancy. I mean, and dangerous.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, Jacques Cousteau was cool. I don't know. I'd be down for the windows. I want to see all that stuff. It's the same, I think, attitude as when Columbia came back in and disintegrated. So one of the crew members, his last name was McCool. Like
was it really?
Yeah, that's his actual last name, MC, M little C, big C, McCool. And I'm not trying to throw anything out there, but it was the black dude, right? And I'm like, the coolest name with the black dude has to have the coolest name. And I remember thinking to myself, and it was probably a shitty thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyways because I don't care. I'm thinking like his last words had to be, "Yeah, this is how I'm going to go out," right? Because Mick Cool is going to go out in a straight blaze of glory,
just a giant fireball.
If you think about it, you're in the afterlife, right? You're just chilling, and everyone's like, "Well, hey, how'd you die? Had a heart attack? What about you, McCool?" I disintegrated on my way back to Earth in the atmosphere. Like, fuck yeah, you did.
Crown him.
Right? Yeah, right? So sorry, you had a heart attack? So pedestrian.
Yeah, man, that's Well, that's funny. It's funny that we have such different thoughts on space versus the ocean. Even something like, I've only been to Disneyland twice in my life, but going on I'm using my quote fingers here, the submarine adventure, even just the windows in that bothers me.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like you got a general fear of the ocean or water like that.
But again, I've been on I spent the night on a World War II submarine, and I thought it was the best thing ever. I'd go do that again in a heartbeat.
Just as long as there's no windows.
I don't want to see any windows, man. I like the tubes. I like the torpedo section. Actually, I've been on a couple submarines, and every one of them I thought was amazing. But yeah, I can't do the windows.
Interesting.
In a total divergent thought, but my brother bought me an Oculus and got me the game U-Boat Commander.
Okay.
And so I played around with. I'm not a big gamer, nor am I any good, but I did have fun with that. I found that I was literally getting seasick standing in my living room with my headset on as I was commanding my U-boat.
Sure.
But that whenever I think submarines, I think that'd be a cool era to live in.
And it says a lot about the quality of the Oculus experience, that you can get seasick on a boating game.
Oh yeah, it's just standing there.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Leave a like on the video. I know you're enjoying this. Can you shut up?
The internet's answer to a question that was never asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
All right, so the other one that we had come up with was, would you rather go to a Super Bowl where your team is playing, or go to one game at every Major League Baseball park?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm going to go, and as actually an easy one for me, because my interest in baseball is 0%. I think it'd be awesome to go to the Super Bowl where my team's playing.
Sure.
Do I get good seats?
Yeah, we would assume that whether you go to the baseball game or the Super Bowl, you would get just prime seats.
Prime seats. Oh, Super Bowl, 100%.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm going to lean the other direction. I would rather go to every baseball game or every baseball park, and I'll tell you why. And I don't watch baseball. I'm a big football fan. I'm a big Las Vegas Raiders fan. So, why wouldn't
to your own detriment sometimes?
Well, yeah, we're not going to get into that. Team sucks. I got it. They've been shitty for a long time. But the reason why I would go to the Major League Baseball games is because it's not about the game; it's about the traveling. Mm-hmm. And so I get to travel to just dozens of cities, and I think that would be why I would do it over just going to a specific game one time. The other is I've actually been to a Raiders Super Bowl, and so I've already had the experience. Well, I'm lying. I didn't really have the experience. I thought I was going to have the experience, but I went to the Raiders Super Bowl when they played the Buccaneers. I think it was Super Bowl 37.
Where was it?
It was in San Diego.
Okay.
All right. So here's the story. I basically decided that I would use my press passes to get into the game, thinking that if I go down to San Diego, I can use my Oakland Tribune press passes. I mean, it's the Oakland fucking Raiders. I work for the Oakland paper. It seems like it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I just wave you through the gate.
Yeah, right. So I'll get in for free, and I'll get to watch this game. So we haul our asses down to the game. It was me and another reporter, my buddy Rob. And so we go down to the game, and we walk up to the gates, and we have our press passes. I had every press pass. I had my CHP press pass, I had my government press pass, and my Oakland Tribune press pass. So I'm thinking, I'm legit to the nines. They're going to let me in. Problem. And I should have actually talked to the Oakland sports reporters at my own job. You typically get into these games, because I used to use my press pass to get into regular Oakland Raider games all the time. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't questioned a whole lot. And especially after I did it a few times, they all knew who I was. Even though I did not cover sports, they didn't know that. I'm covering for somebody else. Where's the regular sports reporter? Because a lot of the sports reporters didn't go to these games. They didn't have the time. They can get all the stats, watch the game on TV. They don't have to go to the game.
Right.
So we get down there. First thing I learned, when it's a game like the Super Bowl, you just don't walk up with a press pass and think you're getting in. Even if your press passes are legit, you have to actually schedule these things. So they allow so many reporters in to the actual game. And Oakland didn't do that. Surprisingly, how cheap those bastards were. They still didn't even send a reporter down to the game. They don't
At
wanna
all?
pay, no, because they can watch the game on TV. They're not going to pay for all this shit, right? So I'm not on any kind of list. I tried to play it off like, well, they didn't call you, and I knew nothing about this. So I'm totally on the fly, right? Trying to like, well, of course they should have called you. They just had told you I was coming or whatever. And so I'm sitting there going like, well, we can't get in. So eventually some higher up shows up and makes a judgment call and says, well, you know what we can do is we can go ahead and take you into, we have a press room. So after the game where they do like the press conferences, we can put you in there. There's TVs in there and you can be in there. So we ended up getting shipped into the stadium, into this room with a couple of other people watching the game on TV at the damn stadium. So,
oh, that's fantastic, man.
yeah, so we drove on, we went down to
That
San
was my
Diego.
next thing is from Oakland to San Diego is not exactly a hop skip.
No, it's a bit of a drive, and you get down there, and it's like we've basically ended up where we would have ended up anyways, in some room watching it on TV. And the irony being that like literally the game is happening right outside of this room, and we can't get any kind of access to it. We can't get on the field, we can't get in the stands, we can't get even into the press boxes.
Did you even see the field?
No, we're in a room. We might as well have been in a hotel room.
That's fantastic.
So I did go to a Raiders Super Bowl, and but I didn't really see it, at least not the way I was expecting to see it.
Right.
Yeah. So we stayed there. They actually had some food there. It was I'm not gonna say catered, but they did have sandwiches and sodas and shit like that. It sucked though because I'm like I'd rather have a beer. I'm watching the Super Bowl. You want to throw back a few and didn't have that, but. And it was fine. After that, we went out and had a good time. I needed a beer after that game because the Raiders got their asses fucking kicked.
Yep.
It was very, very
I remember
depressing Super Bowl to watch as a fan.
My grandma, because Gruden was coaching.
No. Yeah, he was coaching the Bucks.
The Bucks,
yeah.
Because I remember my grandma was a diehard Raiders fan, but she was also a huge John Gruden fan. And I remember sitting in the living room with her, and she was in her favorite red rocking chair. And she's like, I don't know who to pull for. She's like, go Raiders, go Bucks, go Raiders, go Bucks.
No way. I hated
it. Was like the biggest conflicted Super Bowl, but grandma had a good time.
Yeah. I hated John Gruden, after he left. I mean, I probably was, misguided anger because he was a really good coach. He's really the last good coach the Raiders had. And so I was just like, screw him. But I kind of knew when the game started that like, this is going to be bad if Bill Callahan, who was the coach of the Raiders at the time, didn't change anything, which he didn't. And Bill Callahan did not take the Raiders to the Super Bowl. John Gruden is the only person in history to take two teams to the Super Bowl in the same year. That's how I view it. And he knew exactly what was going on. And this is why Rich Gannon got picked off 50,000 times.
Yeah, that was a bloodbath.
Yeah, total bloodbath.
Well, real quick, going back to the baseball stadium question, if you were to go on this saga, is there a stadium that you'd be really interested in visiting?
I think there'd be a couple. I know Wrigley Field would be awesome. Fenway Park would be awesome. I think the one in Toronto would be awesome. And I'll tell you why. Because there's hotel rooms in the Toronto Stadium.
I didn't know that.
And they have big bay windows, so you can rent a room and you can open up the windows and watch the game down onto the field.
That's cool. I never heard that.
Yeah, and the reason I found out about this was because there was a story when they first opened the stadium that the Blue Jays were playing, whoever they were playing, I guess the Blue Jays at this time weren't a particularly good team. I don't know if they are now. I don't know if they've ever really been, but nonetheless, right? So the game's going on. The Blue Jays suck, and they're losing. And out of nowhere, the stadium starts cheering super, super loud.
Oh, I hear this coming.
Yeah, and so apparently a couple had decided to open the windows and just have sex right, in front of everybody, and everybody was cheering them on. So maybe what I'm saying is I'd like to go to Toronto Stadium and get a hotel room and have sex with the windows open and see if anybody cheers me on. I think that would be fun.
Oh man, you could definitely list that adventure under your on your resume under skills and certifications.
Sure, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that would be something I would stick on the old resume.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm not a baseball fan at all. I think it'd be fun to go to some of these obscure ballparks though, like where the Milwaukee Brewers play or something like that, where it's really important, but it's important only in that area.
I think so. Yeah, I think Comiskey Park would be cool.
The White Sox?
White Sox, yeah, I think that would be cool. I know that Yankee Stadium doesn't exist anymore. They tore it down, right? So I don't know what was in place of it, a new Yankee Stadium. I don't know if I'd be particularly interested in that. But again, it's about the travel.
Sure.
So I'd love to go to New York, go watch a game and then go pal around in New York. So it would be definitely more about the travel.
We'll see. Mega's on Tuesday night, man. So this adventure could start on Wednesday this week.
Oh, my God. I don't got that kind of jack.
No, that's what I'm saying. But Mega's on Tuesday night, so if you did hit it, you can fire up the G4 and leave on your Lord of the Rings conquest. I think that'd be good, man. Let's see, another stadium that I'd really like to visit, and it's been I haven't even thought about this in 20 years, but where the Seattle Mariners play, at least on TV, from what I recall, I thought that it looked like a really pretty stadium.
Do you know the name of it? Is it MetLife, maybe? I'm making shit up.
I have no idea, man.
I have zero clue. I wouldn't. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also, again, I think about where these things are located. Like, I've always wanted to go to Florida, and so yeah, it definitely would go down and whatever games being played, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Marlins or whoever, would be super, super fun.
Well, I do like the game of Would You, but yeah, definitely not going underwater if there's windows. I guess that's the punchline to my statement. Don't want to see it.
And I won't go unless there are windows.
Well, I guess in a final little asterisk on that whole adventure, I forget the name of the movie, and I think we might have talked about this once before, but it was probably year 2001-ish. It was starring LL Cool J, where it was like a underwater marine base or something where they had shark attacks.
I remember the movie
Deep Blue.
Maybe. I don't recall the title of it, though.
And that's the one thing I remember sitting in the theater and I'm like, there's freaking windows. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see, 30 killer sharks coming towards me and trying to rip my legs off. Again, no windows.
So another would you that we have is, would you prefer to have dinner with one celebrity, like a more intimate kind of long evening with a celebrity, or go to some place, we'll say the Oscars, where you would meet a lot of celebrities, but it would be on a very surface level,
like shake hands and
say hi,
hey, I liked you, and such type of a thing. Well, I have zero interest in celebrities, so but there's a couple people that I would love to have dinner with. There's a guy that a musical artist I follow on YouTube, DJ Zeus, out of Poland.
Really? Because I think I might know who this guy. I think Love listens to him. Is he Indian? Or,
no,
you're saying he's from Poland, but
he's from Poland. I forget his actual real name, but he was born. So he's a DJ. He's a music producer. He actually creates tunes for other people. He plays at festivals. And he was born without arms.
Oh, shit. Okay, I don't think this is the same person I'm thinking of.
And I think, and I don't even know if he actually has a lower torso.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I think, he's an amazing musical talent.
Yeah.
But just the mental strength and like what his story was to overcome. Like, how do you become a musical person and you don't have arms?
Right.
That's a really amazing thing. And so I think there's probably a deep emotional, possibly a deep spiritual deal to talk about. I think he's a really amazing person, and I'd like to know a lot more. So if it was, that whole thing is dinner with a celebrity or dinner with a celebrity or a famous person, dead or alive type of thing, having dinner with DJ Zeus, I think would be awesome.
Sweet, right on. Yeah. I'm in the same camp you are. Going to say, I'll use the Oscars. That was the example I gave. I'm not particularly interested in celebrity as well. And so hanging out like at an Oscars with the idea that I would meet a bunch of different celebrities really doesn't appeal to me. If I did go to the Oscars, what would actually appeal to me is I'm at the Oscars. Like, this is a really cool event. But the fact that there's a bunch of celebrities around me, I'm not super interested in that. So I would always prefer to lean on the idea that I'd rather have dinner with some kind of famous person. And but you're celebrity is a little bit different than the one I would pick. I'd pick Jason Bateman. He's still probably my favorite actor.
Ozark.
Yeah, and the reason I would pick him is I grew up, with him on TV. I love his comeback as an adult. I think his best work, Ozark, Horrible Bosses, all these movies are great. And I think he's an interesting person. I think he'd be fun to hang out with. So, and again, I could talk a lot to him about his entire career because I've followed his entire career. Everything from the Hogan Family to Teen Wolf 2, bombs that he's done, to even his first sitcom that he starred in, which was called It's Your Move. It was only on for one season.
I don't even remember this.
And it was just a cool show. And again, I think he's a year or two older than me. Well, I don't know. I don't know how old he is, but he's maybe a couple of years older than me.
Okay.
So I as a kid, I think I was maybe about 10 when that show was on the air. It was a great show. So it's a big part of my childhood. And it was only on for one season, but I liked the show that much that I remember It's Your Move. So that's who I would pick if I had a choice. And again, I think no matter the situation, I would pick dinner with any celebrity or famous person or whatever over going to an event where there's a bunch of celebrities that I'm only going to have, hey, I liked you in that film or whatever, kind of that sort of surface interaction.
Yeah.
But I actually have had dinner with a celebrity.
Ooh.
Yes, I
really?
have had dinner with a celebrity. Well,
is this like A-list or D-list?
At the time, I would say very much A-list.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm interested in hearing this.
So this was Belinda Carlisle, singer for the Go-Go's.
Yeah. Okay.
So my dad worked for a film production company called Empire Pictures, and they were the company that was responsible for a lot of the knockoff horror films in the 80s. So if you had the Gremlins, their biggest film was The Ghoulies, which was, again, they would often kind of rip off existing properties and try to create their own film based on more successful properties.
Okay.
So they were doing a film. So they did Ghoulies, and Ghoulies was their biggest, I want to say their biggest hit. And they were trying, as far as I understand from my dad when he told me the story, that they were essentially in a spot where they wanted to try to go big and actually put out something that wasn't kind of a B film. And whatever movie they were working on, I don't know what the film was.
Okay.
I have no clue. But they wanted to get a major music star, their music. And at the time, Belinda Carlisle had come out with her first solo album, Heaven on Earth, or whatever that stuff was. You remember those songs?
Oh, yeah. That was a great album.
So my dad was the point man to do all this. So I guess at some point he contacts her agent, and it's like, we want to get the rights maybe to include some of her music in this film. And it eventually ended up being that they were going to have a meeting with Belinda. And ultimately, and I don't know why this happened the way it did, but the meeting was, wasn't like a meeting in an office. They're going to go to her house and they're going to talk to her there. And my dad was babysitting me essentially, right? Not babysitting me, but I wasn't quite old enough. I don't think my parents didn't want to leave me home alone. So I had to go with my dad. And we went to her house, and they had dinner, and they were making dinner, and said, "Oh, just hang out." And they talked, and I'm sitting there going like, "Oh, it's the lady from the Go-Go's."
That's wild, man.
And to be honest, it wasn't like, I think we were there maybe 45 minutes, and it was mostly business. But yeah, they served us food, and we sat down and had a conversation, and it was mostly the agent talking, And I asked her a couple of questions,
Was she cool?
Oh, yeah, she was super, super nice. Really, really sweet. It was the first time it's the first kind of interaction I had with somebody that was famous that made me clearly realize just how human they are, And so, but I wasn't a big Belinda Carlisle fan. Even then, I wasn't really listening to a ton of music yet. I hadn't gotten into the whole music thing. So I just knew who she was. And I was just like, oh, yeah, the Go-Go's. And I think she had just released that album, and I remember the song. I remember liking the song, Heaven on Earth, I think was the first single off of that. And so, that's my experience. And I wish I had more to share. To be honest with you, I think it was, I don't know how old I was, maybe 11. So it was somewhere 6th, 7th grade.
Okay. I've never had dinner with a celebrity. I would say I've had dinner adjacent. On 2 occasions. One of them was a number of years ago. Cookie and I were having dinner at a restaurant in Pismo Beach, and she's like, "Are we sitting next to Bob Saget?" And I looked over and why, yes, we are. We hadn't talked to him or anything, but and then just not too long ago, this would have been like 2017, 2018, Cookie and I were in Paris, and we were at Café de Fleur, and Cookie keeps trying to take a picture with her phone, but not look like she's taking a picture with her phone.
Sure. And
I look over, and we were sitting next to Karl Lagerfeld.
Who?
Karl Lagerfeld. And one of the most famous fashion designers in history.
Explains why I don't know who that person is.
But I thought that was pretty interesting. So Karl got up to go buy fashion magazines from the kiosk outside of the cafe. And so Cookie jumps up with her phone to go take pictures of Karl picking up magazines. So good for her. That was, so I'd say we've had meals adjacent, but never with anybody.
Okay, yeah, it's similar to the story when I went to Club 33. And I may have said this on a previous podcast, where, you know, in Club 33 in Disneyland, and I don't know if it was Love or it was James or Nicole, somebody saw what they believed to be Daniel Radcliffe. And I know we had talked, because I remember when I said the name, you had asked, like, who the fuck is that? Right? And so I remember we spent about 10 minutes, you know, just like, is that him? I think it's him. Is it him?
Are you sure?
Well, the thing is I know Daniel Radcliffe. I know what he looks like because I've seen the Harry Potter trailers and pictures. I've never seen a Harry Potter film. That's the only thing I know him from. So unless he's wearing those glasses, and I guess he's like 15 years old again, I may not necessarily recognize him. Did it look like it could be him? I thought it could have been him. But again, I'm probably a poor person to make that call. I don't know him well enough to say yes. And a lot of people can look like Daniel Radcliffe. But the setting is correct. You know, Club 33 is pretty exclusive. So whoever that dude was, he had to be somebody with money. Because everybody in there...
Somebody with connections.
Yeah, has to have money. Unless they're all like us. They just got passes from somebody. Right.
We just know people.
Yeah, we just know people. The whole restaurant's full of people that just know people. Right. So that's my dinner adjacent with a celebrity. Possibly. Can't confirm that was Daniel Radcliffe.
Hey, well, this has been a fun episode of the Would You Rather and the celebrity deal on intimate versus shaking lots of hands. And I have no interest in shaking lots of hands.
Yeah, and I have no interest really in having dinner with a celebrity. I'd rather just have a dinner with a nice person, an interesting person. And if they happen to be a celebrity, then I guess what they are.
Kudos.
Yeah, but if it's somebody who isn't famous, that's cool too. See, you could have dinner with me.
Done.
Right? I'm at least, you know, I'm not an A-lister, but I guess on the alphabet, I'd be like an XY lister.
Hey, we'll take it. That's awesome.
I have an important announcement for you, so stay tuned.
Yo, that's some next level shit, bruh. So you got me. Big deal.
The internet's answer to a question no one asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. And you can catch us on all social media platforms at The Tilted Table 1. That is the number 1. And we're on all platforms. And you can like, subscribe, share, ring bells. Whatever you're supposed to do. We know absolutely nothing about this stuff.
Nope. Just two dudes being dudes. Peace.